What's up guys, Taiki here, and in this video I'll be going over why KeeperDAO has zero competition. If you like the content, please like and subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let's get started. So I've been getting a lot of questions like this. What exactly is KeeperDAO's competitive moat? And can't someone just fork the code and make some competitor with better incentives and suck away liquidity? And those are good questions to have, right? When it comes to AMMs like Uniswap, someone can just fork the code, make sushi, and other AMMs and like Bancor can take away market share from Uni. So it's always good to think about competition. However, I'll show you through game theory and math why KeeperDAO has zero competition. This video is going to be a doozy. So this is the overview of the video. It's going to be a lengthy one, but hang in there if you really want to understand why. I'll be walking you through a game theory scenario called the prisoner's dilemma. And once you understand prisoner's dilemma, I'll walk you through something called the Grim trigger. And the Grim trigger is really important because the Grim trigger is really what gives KeeperDAO its advantage. So let's get started. So what is the prisoner's dilemma? It's essentially a game analyzing game theory that shows why two completely rational individuals might not cooperate even if it appears that it is in their best interests to do so. So if that doesn't make sense, it's okay. Here's an example. So let's say there's been a murder, right? And the police have two suspects, and the prosecutors lack sufficient evidence to convict them on murder, but they have enough to convict them on a lesser charge. They're in solitary confinement with no means to communicate with each other, and they're given two options. Either remain silent, right? So cooperate with each other, or betray each other and rat the other person out, right? And in the prisoner's dilemma, there are four scenarios, right? First, they can either cooperate with each other, so remain silent. They can either betray each other, both of them, right? Or there are other two scenarios where one cooperates and the other betrays. So even though this might seem complicated on the surface, there's actually a mathematical solution to what both A and B should do. So let's walk through that. So let's assume that we are prisoner A, right? And we have no idea what prisoner B is going to do. So, we have to assume that prisoner B is going to cooperate half the time and betray half the time. So we can just we can calculate the expected value of our actions, something that we can control, of either cooperating or betraying. So, if you think about what is the expected value of me cooperating with B, half the time we both cooperate and we go to jail for 1 year. But the other half the time I cooperate and B betrays me, so I go to jail for 3 years. So on average, the expected value of me cooperating with B is going to be me going to jail for 2 years. Okay, how about the other scenario of me betraying? Well, if I betray B and B cooperates with me, I get away for free. Pretty sick, right? But in the other scenario, half the time we both betray each other and I go to jail for 2 years. So the expected value of me betraying is 1 year, but the expected value of me cooperating is 2 years. So a rational actor would always betray each other, right? And both B and A is going to do this continually, where we both betray each other because that's the highest expected value, and we're going to just keep going to serve 2 years in jail, right? That's an actual equilibrium where we're choosing the highest expected value scenario. But you might be wondering, what about this scenario where we both remain silent, we both remain cooperative, and we only go to jail for 1 year, right? And this is actually an impossible scenario to reach in the Nash equilibrium prisoner's dilemma example, which is the prisoner's dilemma, right? We're both making rational decisions, but we end up with the least favorable option. But to actually achieve this scenario, we have to play this new game where we can actually talk to each other and we can actually have a mutual understanding to cooperate, right? So A and B can actually talk to each other and tell each other, let's cooperate. This is the best case scenario. Let's just both cooperate and only go to jail for 1 year, right? So to achieve this, let's look at this situation from my perspective, prisoner A's perspective again, and assume prisoner B cooperates 100% of the time, all right? So if I cooperate with prisoner B, I go to jail for 1 year, right? That's the scenario we talked about. But wait, now I can betray player B and only go to jail. Wait, I don't even have to go to jail. I can just get away for free. Haha, and now this is where prisoner A's gigabrain comes in and says, ha, prisoner B is a fool. I gigabrained him into screwing himself over. I tricked him. I'm so smart, right? And I am always going to betray player B because I am so smart. I am so smart. But this is where the groom trigger happens. And this is where, sorry, if this is confusing, don't worry, I'll explain it more in detail. But, it essentially explains a situation where both players are continually cooperating with each other. But as soon as the other person betrays, then the other person will betray forever to the other person, right? It's a severe strategy where a single betrayal brings about an eternal end to cooperation. Seems dire, right? But don't worry. Here's an example where, prisoner A betrays prisoner B. But prisoner B says, you know what? Like, fuck this guy. Like, we had a mutual understanding to cooperate, but he just betrayed me. This guy's a real ass. I can't trust him anymore, right? I'll make sure he goes down with me forever, right? So now prisoner B is going to betray 100% of the time. This is the groom trigger. So from prisoner A's perspective, this happens where, in the first scenario, like we both went to jail for 1 year and that was happy, right? We could have done this forever. But now that I betrayed prisoner B one time, I am just in like eternal hell, right? I go to jail for 3 years or 2 years, right? And this is when prisoner A says, wait a minute, I screwed up. I should never have betrayed prisoner B. I should have always cooperated. I should have always cooperated with my partner and chosen the best case scenario. I got too greedy. I will never do that again. Right, so this is the groom trigger. And I'll tie this into how this affects KeeperDAO, right? So don't worry. I'm not gonna go off on a random tangent. But the way I think about the groom trigger is assuming like you have a business, right, that's doing well. But, Jeff Bezos randomly walks up to you with a smile on his face and says, you know what? You either cooperate and join us, or I'll truly fuck you up, right? I'll bankrupt your company. And this is the same scenario for KeeperDAO as well. KeeperDAO is essentially saying, you either cooperate and join us, or I'll truly fuck you up. In the case of arbitrage, it's essentially saying, compete with us, I'll make sure that neither of us will ever make a profit. In other words, any competitor to KeeperDAO faces the bleak reality of the grim trigger. They have the first mover advantage. They're the first ones in the space. So if there's anyone new that shows up, they can just grim and trigger their ass for life, right? Forever. So for any new entrant, there are either going to be two options, right? Either no one makes a profit, or the new entrant joins the system. So let's look at this arbitrage opportunity to really tie this in, right? So this is $1,000 arbitrage. It's great. Gas is $50. So KeeperDAO eyes this and says, I'm going to buy 1 ETH here, 1 ETH there, and book a $950 profit. Great. But a new entrant comes in out of nowhere, right? This person makes an arbitrage bot and wants to join in on the party. And this arbitrage bot says, I'm going to bid $100 to capture arbitrage. Well, KeeperDAO says, grim trigger, fuck out of here. We're going to bid $1,000 in gas. So the arb is gone. All right, join us or we'll do this forever, right? It's your choice. Yeah, just, like we don't care. Like we're the first mover. Like you either join us or we just like basically make your arb bot obsolete. And essentially what happens is that, because of the grim trigger threat and the first mover advantage, everyone has to join the network. All right. Because either way, because what are the options, right? You either compete with each other and just make zero money, or just cooperate, join a network, and make some money. That's essentially this is essentially why KeeperDAO has zero competition. Because the answers to the question is that there are no competition because of network effects and the grim trigger threat, right? A grim trigger threat, and this happens because of the first mover advantage. So you ask me, do they have competition? I say no, they do not. And that is why I'm so bullish KeeperDAO, and I'm going to keep adding to the dip. And this only happens if the team executes, which I fully believe in. So that's always the risk, right? Like, I'm not running this business, the team is. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Thank you.